Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Matthew Wright, Managing Partner at the Wright Law Group. Thanks for joining me, Matt.
Hey, pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
I'm glad to have you on here. It was nice to meet you at the ELFA Executive Roundtable, and I love the enthusiasm with the fire behind you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I had to bring it for Jesse. Fireside Chat with Jesse. Had to bring it. Yeah, it looks a little bit like the house is on fire, so it's kind of nerve-wracking to see that over my shoulder. But hopefully the viewers won't be too worried.
Now, if there's a smell that you might associate with that, then we're going to have some issues, and we can have to pause this for a little while. But we're good. We're good. So, Matt, for the people who might not have had the pleasure of meeting you yet, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your career to date?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Matthew Wright. I'm the managing partner at the Wright Law Group. And we are a boutique commercial collections litigation firm. And it is like 80% of our work is equipment finance, right? So we're very heavily focused on the equipment finance space. And that happened because I was a young attorney working at a firm, and that firm dissolved. Actually, there were some management issues, and that firm dissolved. I went out on my own. I was doing a few things, and I got a call from a person I had worked with, and she was working at a place called Main Street Bank. And some of the viewers may know Main Street Bank eventually became Ascentium. And so I got to work with Main Street Bank right as it was getting going and building its portfolio. And so I had the opportunity to learn this equipment finance litigation business on the default side. And so through that process, I discovered I enjoy the practice. It appeals to my personality. And as a business person, I was running my own firm. I was out on my own, just working, on my kitchen table. I realized it was a type of practice that I could. There was a lot of opportunity there,
sure.
And so I decided in 2011 that this is all I was going to do. I was just going to do equipment finance in the litigation side specifically. I let some other clients go that I was doing other types of work for, and started to really focus on this. And then I started to do some networking through organizations like NEFA and ELFA and some others, and discovered that the business, the people in the business, are a unique group of professionals who are open, charismatic, want to help people succeed, and particularly young professionals like myself at the time. I got some opportunities that I feel very fortunate for, and was able to execute on those opportunities and bring something that I felt was a little unique to the table.
Sure.
And so now our focus, there's lots of firms that do commercial litigation and lots of firms that handle equipment finance cases, but the business model that I developed for the firm is a reflection of the people that I met when I started coming to NEFA events and ELFA events, and particularly what I would see on the exhibit floor. So when you're there on the exhibit floor, you see lenders, and many lenders really focus on their speed, how quickly they can do things, how quickly they can approve, how quickly they can fund. And so I knew from being on the exhibit floor and seeing these kinds of materials and talking to lenders, that speed was very important in their business. And so I decided that we wanted to reflect the values of the equipment finance industry in our practice. And so now we're a law firm that's really highly focused on speed and efficiency. And so we do things, we measure response times, responses to client. We measure those times in hours, not days or weeks. We file cases. We measure that time from the period of time from when we get the case to when we file it. Again, we measure that in hours. And so we're really focused on speed, and then a high level of client service. So we want to make sure that as a business person, I want to make sure that the incentives inside the business are driving a positive client experience. And so we've had we've been able to generate really long-term relationships. So I've been working with Ascenium since 2009. So a good long while. Yeah, it's really terrific, and it's a great business in that way that, people may see out around town. They see other lawyers advertising, and you see the billboards and the signs on the bus stops. And in those other kinds of practices, you have to hustle all the time to find new clients, because when you meet a client, that's probably the only work you're ever going to do for them.
Yeah, and it's kind of a one and done situation, and you're just like, that was one of the reasons that I fell in love with this industry back in 2005 when I got in it. It was just like more of the relationship selling side of it, where it's like you get these people, you foster those relationships, cultivate them, and then they just kind of turn out to some of my closest friends I have are met in equipment finance.
yeah, that's right. And I feel the same way, right? My clients become my friends. And because we have similar values. And so it makes it easy to connect with people in the business, and to have those long-term relationships, which are really the best kind, right? That's sure. When you can work with someone over a long period of time. Of course, it's beneficial from a business perspective, because we begin to know how they operate. We know kind of how they approach problems, and so we can give them the information they need quickly. But also, they learn our style, they learn about us, and it builds that trust that really makes things efficient and makes the practice of law enjoyable. I find the clients are what makes the practice enjoyable.
Yeah, and there's a lot to unpack kind of in your introduction there, and talking about the Wright Law Group. And I just have to have a little fun with you real quick. So a law firm that's fast, that's typically doesn't exist. Typically it's like, how do we bill more? Is it speed to get the stuff done? I'm just, typically I'm not bashing any attorney by any means, but I've had to use a few of them throughout my lifetime. And typically it's a long drawn out process to get whatever in the retainer they can get. So that's definitely a unique approach that you took to business, Matt.
No, thank you. Yeah, it is because, so as I said, when I started working in the business, I started to learn about finance companies. One of the things I learned is that they have there's default rates. I learned about default rates, and what I've learned is that those businesses every year, equipment finance companies are hustling to put money on the street to make those loans. That's their job, is to make those loans and leases and finance equipment. And no matter what they do, some portion of it is going to go bad. And, it depends, A credits less, C and D credits more, but in any lending relationship, there will be defaults. And so by virtue of that, if we can have that long-term relationship, there's no longer, for us, there's no incentive to overwork a case, to squeeze every penny out of one case, because we have the opportunity to look forward over the next 5 or 10 years, and all those cases we can work together on. It removes any of that, that internal motivation to try and get a few, to bill a little bit more on this case. No, man, just let's resolve it quickly and efficiently and build that trust. And then we can work together over 100, 10, 200, 300 more cases.
So I have to ask a stupid question here, right? A credits, B credits, C credits, D credits, dark side. Is it traditionally more the dark side ones that default than the other ones?
Yeah, that's right. Those they call them story credits, right? That's the term I've heard, is the story credits. Yeah, story credits are going to default more, and so it's the lender. And I do not know the lending side of the business, but my understanding is they're factoring that in, and right, they know that they go into it eyes wide open. But it doesn't mean that when it does happen that you don't have to do something. You don't have to take action. You do need to take action, and you need to, for a variety of reasons, financial, internal, morale within the company, and then also reputational. You don't want to end up as a lender with a reputation as a lender that doesn't go after bad accounts, because that'll just drive, folks in industries talk, right? Construction industries and trucking industries,
Sure.
there's communities there and they talk. And so it can, to become known as a lender that doesn't pursue deficiencies, can ultimately lead to more deficiencies.
No, perfect. I'm just more of a curiosity question than anything else. And then it's like, hey man, we've seen this same type of credit that went bad like 10 times before. Why are we doing this again?
Yeah, well, because some of them will pay, right?
I get it. I get it.
They don't all go bad, and there are plenty of stories where it's the story ends up being with a happy ending. A guy, a customer, a business owner that struggled in the past, and they get that opportunity through a story credit lender, and they make good, and then they build their financial future that way.
Sure. No, absolutely. And then working with Main Street. So was Bob Fisher one of your first guys that you kind of came in the industry with then?
Yeah. Bob Fisher, Hernan, Travis Stone, Jerry Noon, Brian Wheeler. I got to get to know those guys, and still have the opportunity to work with them today, which is great.
Yeah, they're a fun group, and Craig Conling and his team are out here and in Arizona, and they're actually hosting our EF Cares event that one of your junior partners came to, a couple weeks ago. So it's a good organization.
Yeah.
So do you remember what your first, was it a NEFA event or ELFA event?
It was an ELFA event. I went to the Equipment Management Conference.
Okay.
Yeah, because it happened to be in San Antonio. And I was just learning about the different organizations and the conference circuit. And so I was living, in Texas at the time, and in Houston. And so San Antonio was very easy for me to shoot out there. And I get Jerry Noon had connected me to Mike Smith at RTR. And he said, go talk to Mike. He knows everybody. Just that'd be a good introduction for you. And so, I attended that equipment management conference rather, and got to know Mike, and he introduced me to a few people in the industry, and it just went from there. It was pretty intimidating, frankly. It's a go into that organization, and there are so many relationships, and to be there as the new guy. But as I said, I had the very fortunate luck to happen into an industry of professionals who are open, who are friendly, who are willing to chat with somebody new and kind of explain how the business works, and explain at least their part of the business.
Yeah, even other attorneys. I mean, that's the unique part about this industry, is you might be competing, for case files with some firms out there, but they'll gladly share information. They're not going to peel back the entire onion, obviously, but they'll gladly give you some guidance and everything. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about this industry coming in at 23, where you walk into one of those big rooms and you're just like, what is this? And everyone knows everybody. And like you said, it can be rather intimidating, but it's just people put their arm around you and they're like, who do you want to meet? And it's
that's right. I had exactly that experience.
So what are your thoughts between like the ELFA crowd and then the NEFA crowd?
Well, I'd say the ELFA crowd is a little more buttoned up. I might call it. The NEFA crowd is, exactly. Yeah, the NEFA crowd, they're ready to hit the bar, even midday. Yeah, so it's definitely, NEFA is the let loose organization, in my opinion.
Any favorite conference that you've been to in your career?
With NEFA, the funding conferences, I've always enjoyed the funding conferences, and always try to make those, to get out to those. And so the funding conferences, particularly when they're in California, are always a treat.
And then, shifting gears a little bit here. So what we're seeing right now in 2023 in this economy, are you starting to see a more uptick in some cases with your clients? Was it down during the pandemic just because of all the the money that people had, and now it's starting to go back up.
Yeah, I tell you what, in like May of 2020, it was like somebody just turned off the tap. Just new placements.
And you were probably thinking it might be the exact opposite. You're like, these businesses are going to be closed. Like,
yeah, that's exactly right. I was talking to other folks in the business and telling them, oh, I thought this is going to be the big, for our industry, we're counter-cyclical is the nice way to say it, right? Being in a counter-cyclical part of the industry, I thought it was going to be a big impact on ours, but no, it was like somebody turned off the tap. And then it has come back slowly. We have noticed a marked increase in the last 6 to 8 months, starting, fall of last year, placements have started to pick up. And but looking at the ELFA data, we're still below average, pre-pandemic averages, right? We're still below pre-pandemic averages for 30-day default rates and charge-offs. So there's still room to get back to normal. I heard Bob Rinaldi at one of the conferences last year call it a slow and painful return to normal. Right, and so I guess we're headed back to normal. It's still not crazy at our office, but yeah, it's definitely picking up.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, are we in one or are we not in a recession? Like, can we just move on with this already? But like you said, it's not that big kind of anticipatory drop. Now, I'm sure going into an election year next year, there'll be some scare tactics that'll move it one way or another, just because that's the way this story plays out, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you see from the industries that you're in? Are there any more that you're seeing more defaults in, or is it pretty standard across the board?
Yeah, trucking is getting more difficult, right? They're having more defaults in trucking portfolios. So we're seeing more placements and from lenders that have large trucking concentrations. Yeah, we are seeing more. And I have been told, I don't know, Jesse, if you've heard this either, I've been told that trucking is one of the first industries in any downturn, recession, economic challenging time. I've been told that trucking is one of the first to be impacted.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain on that, but I could see with what's going on with diesel prices and everything else. I mean, that just eats right into their bottom line. But it's also with the supply chain coming back, maybe that's being delayed a little bit more because there's such a need to get goods from one location to another. But I'm not an economist by any stretch of the imagination, nor do I pretend to be, because people would be like, hey, you said that, and I'd be like, nah.
Yeah, they took your advice, Jesse.
I'm just a guy with a fireplace behind me that's not putting out heat. That's awesome. So when did you move from Texas to Colorado?
We moved in 2018, and I actually grew up outside of Denver, and so we were, we're in Texas. We're living in Houston, and it was great. I lived in Texas for about 20 years, and it was a great place to be. But so part of what enabled us to move is that I have been working from home since 2009. Like we talked about, I've been social distancing since 2009. Yeah. So, being that it was a work from home thing, it allowed me to continue to practice, keep my Texas license and do that. But we moved in 2018, and it's been great. Yeah. So kind of a homecoming. My parents still have a place nearby, so it's nice to be close to the grandparents and have that kind of help with the kids.
Absolutely. And I guess one of the questions I forgot to ask last time. So in the Wright Law Group, how many employees do you have from a practice perspective? You mentioned Texas, you're in Colorado. Like, do you practice nationwide, or you mind just kind of going into that for me, Matt?
Yeah. So we have 10 employees now, and we have 7 frontline lawyers. And geographically, we cover for state court cases, California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia at this moment. But we are hiring, and so we're going to be expanding into some more states over the next 3 years. And then with regard to the bankruptcy, we do that nationwide. We represent clients nationwide in bankruptcy matters.
Got it. Yeah, I was trying to think from, with all the disclosure mumbo jumbo that's going on between New York, New Jersey, and California, and I'm sure there's a bunch of others that are going to be following suit. At least you get to stay away from that based on Replev work.
yeah, pretty lucky. That all happens on the front side. They deal with that. It hasn't impacted us yet. I do wonder if we'll end up in a situation where we'll want to litigate on something and we might not be able to, or might have a problem because the disclosures on the front end weren't, executed properly. But thankfully, there are several excellent transactional lawyers in the equipment finance business that can, handle that and make sure that it's all set up and just deliver it to us litigators with a bow tie.
Yeah, and that's makes such a great point. Well, I guess you'll find that out in California sooner than later, because that'll be one of the first challenges that you run into once that's done.
I'm sure.
And then after that, we have the 1071 stuff coming down too, right? So while that doesn't impact you, could that have some downstream impact? People just shoot for everything to try to get out of things.
Yeah, certainly. That can, any tool, any advantage, any leverage that a debtor thinks that they can try to take advantage of, certainly they will. So, we have to cross that road when we come to it, see what the argument is, and make our best case.
Are you at liberty to say what's been the most outlandish thing that someone's come up with without mentioning names?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So very recently, actually, we had a dentist in Florida file what we could refer to internally as a sovereign citizen motion. If you get, if you're inclined in this way, you get on the internet, these people find this stuff, something to do with they're Moorish citizens. They're not subject to the laws of the United States. They are like an independent, they consider themselves as independent, sovereign, a country into themselves. And this motion was filed, like I said, by a dentist, by a fairly educated person. She filed it herself. And it came to us with, there were thumbprints in blood on each page.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's serious.
Very serious. Very serious. Yeah. I don't know if it was her blood. I'm not saying it was her blood. I don't know. Blood involved.
How'd that work out for her? Did it work in her favor?
It's not going to work out for her now.
Yeah. That's good. At least, it's Florida. Good luck. You know what I mean? Now, what would have been interesting is if they tried that in a different state. And you're just like, where's this going to go?
Yeah.
That's where you just say, no, I'm good. I'm not going to touch this one here. Thank you very much. What advice, Matt, would you have to a young attorney coming into the equipment finance industry?
Yeah, clearly go to conferences, right? Get out, be active in the organizations, get involved, and just come and be open to new relationships, be open to new people, do what you can to just even strike up a conversation, at a booth or at the cocktail bar, right? And you'll find that, like we talked about, the people in this industry are very generous, very open, and beyond that, I would say it is to just get your reps in, just practice, touch as many of these cases as you can, because in equipment finance, what I've found is that particularly on the default side, if you're a litigator, there are only so many permutations that a case can take. There's only so many things that can happen. And so the more opportunities you have to see a case and how it works out and the types of arguments that a debtor makes, you will become, it's called the practice of law for a reason. Because as you practice, as you get your reps in, as you handle cases, you begin to learn what are the possible things that can happen. And then as new files come in, you'll start to recognize, oh, I've seen this before. I know how this can play out. So you can give your client the best advice right at the very beginning and set the case up for success based on that experience.
Interesting. So it's like, I've seen this go this way 90% of the time, but there's always that 10% chance it might go that way.
That's right.
Educated guess.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you can't predict everything. I did not predict we were going to get a filing with blood thumbprints. I hadn't seen that before. That was a new one. That was pretty interesting. But yeah, you can know pretty well what's probably going to happen.
Perfect. Well, I ask everyone who comes on here to give me a little fun fact about themselves. So outside of law and equipment finance, what makes you tick?
Oh, sure. The family. The thing actually, though, that I wanted to tell people or tell you, because I knew this was coming, I was prepared, that I thought was unique, was that I sold books door to door in college.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you've had any other door to door salesmen on.
You know what? My first sales job was Yellow Pages. So imagine going door to door to businesses that you've had every person try to sell these people whatever, and they just, yeah. So I can sort of relate, but that was the businesses.
Knocking on doors. I was in neighborhoods knocking on doors.
Yeah. Not the people. This is not about me, but when I first moved to Arizona, like there was these people and they were like in front of my door and they were like, "Oh, hey, I want to talk to you." And I went in my garage and hit the button. The door went down. I'm like, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So sorry, I was one of those people. So what books were you selling?
I was working for Southwestern Publishing, and it was educational. This is, the internet and the educational resources on the internet. It wasn't like Khan Academy, like we have these days, that kind of stuff. But they were thick books for grade levels to help kids study. They had study guides and explainers. And the idea was it was there to help parents work with their kids to help them, succeed in school. And it was a fun job because you got to see families coming together around education. Sure. And you got to see the enthusiasm that was generated when the children realized, oh, the parents are really, invested, like literally financially invested in their educational success.
So did you have your system down in regards to when you walked up to a house, the type of house that was like, that's not, those people aren't going to answer? How many knocks before you had someone open the door? How many no's before I had a yes? I mean, that's you cut your teeth in true hardcore selling.
Yeah, you had to be. They called it being rejection proof. You had to be rejection proof, right? Because man, you get 10 doors closed in your face in a row. It's hard to hit that 11th one, but that's the one that's going to work out. So that's why you have to force yourself to into that next situation, to take that next step, to keep going.
No, good for you, man. I did that for 18 months and circle back to something we mentioned in the beginning from a relationship selling perspective. Like that was kind of a one and done. And when I had the opportunity to get in this industry, when you can have those relationships, and I've had some customers, I'm on my third job in equipment finance. I've had some of them 3 times.
Yeah.
That's, that doesn't happen everywhere.
No.
But that's awesome. So I guess at the end of the day, why should an equipment finance organization consider doing work with the Wright Law Group?
Yeah, there are many providers, and I think that it's important for each equipment finance company, for those folks that are managing the default and legal process, to find the organization that works best for them, right? And so the thing that makes us different that we talked about is someone who's looking for a high level of client service, fast response, fast action, fast resolution on cases. If you're really focused on speed and a high level of expertise, harking back to what I would tell a young lawyer: get your reps in, get your work on as many cases as you can to learn the business and learn the practice. This is all we do, right? We only do 4 things. We recover collateral, we litigate on deficiency balances, we collect on judgments, and we represent creditors in bankruptcy. So that's all we do every day, all week long. And so there's a very high level of expertise here. And we have the advantage of being responsible for thousands and thousands of judgments amongst the whole crew. And so we can provide that, that high level of expertise and a high level of guidance for clients to help them make the right decision, not to spend good money after bad, right?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Matthew, and look forward to seeing you at an upcoming event. What's the next one you're going to be at? I'm not going to Credit and Collections. Are you heading there?
Jared, my partner, will be there. Jared Rougeau will be there. I am headed actually to the ELFA Legal Forum starting on Sunday. So yeah, well, I don't think you'll be at the Legal Forum, but I'm sure we'll see each other soon.
Okay. Well, that sounds great, Matt. I really appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you in person here in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.